evening and welcome to the news coming to you from NTA's Top Table. For the next 90 minutes, we'll be in different parts of the nation to bring you details of key events as they unfold, the issues at the forefront of conflicts or consensus. We will provide fresh perspectives on developing stories and new developments as they emerge. Tonight, I didn't do it. Senate President denies allegation of sexual harassment leveled against him by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan.
He said clearly that at no time did I ever attempt any sexual harassment on the said distinguished Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan or any other woman for that matter.
Federal Executive Council directs immediate commencement of review of procurement threshold for ministries, departments and agencies. On Power, correspondent tracks the link between vandalism of power infrastructure and recurring outages experienced in different communities. Christians mark Ash Wednesday to commence the Lenten season, making March a holy month for two faiths in Nigeria. What is the cardinal objective of a season of fasting? Who is better to answer other than a cardinal? And on business news, Benny is on ground to count every penny in the financial sector, while Badia Deleye is on the spot for sports. It's a loaded package. But don't take my word for it. After all, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. I'm Yan Ray John, and this is News Extra. Welcome. Let's hit the road now as the Federal Executive Council has directed immediate commencement of a process for the review of threshold of procurement approval for ministries, departments and agencies. Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, revealed this consideration at the end of the Council's meeting this Wednesday. State House correspondent Musbao Dan Wahab reports on this and other outcomes of the meeting.
A second meeting in 1 week for the highest decision and policy-making body in the country. Another set of 20 memoranda for the Council's consideration. Health and social welfare of Nigerians were given attention in addition to infrastructure renewal drive of the administration.
Today's meeting
Information and National Orientation Minister Mohammed Idris led relevant ministers to brief on the outcomes. Out of the two memos approved for the Ministry of Health is a contract of more than 10.2 billion naira for products linked to enhancing the accessibility and affordability of health commodities and health services by Nigerians. The first category of this approval is for the third-line antiretroviral drugs for those living with HIV. And the second category is the procurement of locally manufactured diagnostic kits for diabetics.
Diabetes is a major issue in our country. It's among the fastest growing segment. We have lots of our population suffering from diabetes, and some are not even aware they have diabetes. In addition, we're having a local company for the first time, one of the first in the continent, who will manufacture these diagnostic test kits in Nigeria.
In addition, also is the continuation of the administration's medical relief program to lower cost of some highly sought drugs, including antibiotics, antihypertensives, and anti-diabetics medications.
And it's a relief program, thanks to the empathy of Mr. President on the challenges that Nigerians are facing and his desire to lower the cost of pharmaceutical for those who cannot afford it.
The ministry also got approval for the procurement of mobile X-ray machine and a computerized tomography scanner for the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital in Bauchi. Ministry of Works got approval for 13 road projects across the country, totaling over 660.2 billion naira.
And the big one is fresh contract, and it is the construction of route from Zaria, Hunkui, to Kolomani, Dambali, Maraba, Kanya, Subawa, Kasa, which is in Kaduna and the Katsina State. So the total contract sum is 198 billion.
Since inception, the Council has attended to more than 140 memoranda, most of which have been on procurement. But then, the Council, led in a conversation by the President, is hoping to give more attention to policies consideration by increasing the procurement approval threshold for MDAs.
If you observe, all the memos presented here are largely related to procurement, and so we want that to be decongested, memos to be decongested at the Federal Executive Council level to give room for more detailed discussions on policy issues and reduce some of these memos coming by increasing the threshold of those procurement processes to be executed at the ministerial level.
Now, the matter is not conclusive yet, as the Council has directed the Director General of Bureau of Public Procurement to work with other relevant ministers for a review of the threshold for ministers and MDAs, the outcome of which will be subsequently sanctioned by the Council. Meanwhile, the Council honored two former members who passed on recently with a minute's silence. That include the first female minister, Adenike Oyagbola, who served under late Shehu Shagari's administration, and late Chief Edwin Clark, who was a Federal Commissioner for Education and later Commissioner for Information. From the State House, Musbah and Wahab, NTA News.
Well, the federal government is working to create a system that is sustainable and globally competitive for Nigerian banks and other financial institutions to thrive. President Bola Tinubu, represented by Vice President Kashim Shettima, gave the assurance when he performed the groundbreaking ceremony for a new state-of-the-art headquarters of First Bank of Nigeria at Eko Atlantic City in Lagos State. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jabrila feeds us.
Vice President Kashim Shettima is the special guest at the groundbreaking ceremony. Noted that government policies are motivated by the reality that the nation no longer has the luxury of time to postpone its economic transformation, maintaining that President Tinubu's administration is working to create an enabling environment for businesses to flourish, bearing in mind challenging economic situation, but necessary decisions to stabilize the nation's economy must be taken.
Non-extended harm is moving forward with vision, agility, and a deep commitment to Nigeria's prosperity. I commend this bank colleagues and all stakeholders, including the esteemed individuals here today, with vision and dedication have made this groundbreaking possible. We are not just starting a building, but we are beginning a future. One Nigeria needs, prospers, and inspires.
And so it is no longer surprising that Lagos and First Bank continue to share in that long, over 13 decades of history, of culture, of belief, of sheer size and vision. A 47-story building is not just a building. It's a strength. It's a power of possibility. It's a sheer mind of you can dream, you can see, you can envision, you can innovate. It's what is all put in there. It's a building of the future. It's not a building for today.
The eco-friendly, technologically advanced structure aims to set new standards in sustainable banking practices across Africa. From Lagos, Abraham Jibrila, NTA News.
Let's head to the National Assembly now. Every institution has rules guiding its procedures and operations, which all members must abide by. This point was buttressed at the Senate with regards to the ensuing controversy involving Senator representing Kogi Central, Natasha Uduaghan. National Assembly correspondent Damiele reports that President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, also, at the commencement of plenary, debunks allegations of sexual harassment leveled against him by Senator Natasha, urging the public to await the decision of the courts on the matter.
While I am aware matters are in court, however, I would like to state clearly that at no time did I ever attempt any sexual harassment on the said distinguished Senator Abuja or any other woman.
Immediately, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, concluded his comments on the said allegation. Senator Natasha Adwanga raised a point of order, this time from the seat she had last week rejected, seeking permission to table a petition against the President of the Senate, bordering on allegations of sexual harassment.
You may recall, sir, that on Friday in Arise TV, I did make some statements. And I have decided to narrow these statements in a formal petition against the President of this Senate. So if it may please you, I would humbly step forward and lay this petition.
You may proceed.
But the Chief Whip of the Senate and the Senate leader pointed to the fact that our procedure contravenes the provisions of Senate standing rules.
This petition that was presented by Senator Natasha was signed by herself, which is also in gross contravention of our Senate rules. It has to be her constituents or any other Nigerian.
So it is important for the public to know that political as this matter can be, we cannot be emotional about it. We are guided by two things. Actually, three different things. We are guided by the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, Section 60 of which says we shall regulate our procedure. Secondly, we are guided by the rules of this Senate, Section 40, subsection 4, of which also says no senator shall personally sign a petition to be laid before this Senate. It's not about committee on ethics. It's not about waiting for the committee to take a decision. It's about whether this matter is ripe to be referred to the committee. Mr. Senate President, you were being emotional because you didn't want to be seen as trying to stop this allegation.
Having been referred to the Senate Committee on Ethics and Privilege, which is already investigating the previous allegations of misconduct by Senator Natasha, chairman of the committee said, in line with the standing rules, the petition on alleged sexual harassment would not be entertained.
I can understand why she's not here. She's probably not here on the order of her lawyers. The petition she presented today is actually dead on arrival. And I say that because it runs contrary to Order 40, subsection 4.
Attempts by Senator Natasha to stop the inquiry on her alleged misconduct through a court order was also set aside in the principle of separation of power. Other features at plenary include first reading of 5 bills and the passage of the bill to establish David Umahi University of Health Sciences in Ebonyi State. A motion urging authorities to prevent attacks on farming communities in Edo State was adopted with appeals for assistance to the victims. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
A different scenario at the House of Representatives, which is advocating the federal government and the security agencies to deploy more military personnel and resources to curb banditry attacks in parts of the country where such attacks still persist. This resolution followed motions of urgent public importance moved on the floor of the House. National Assembly correspondent Mitari Ikpe brings us details.
Two motions at plenary highlighted resurgence of bandit attacks and kidnappings in Bakori Danja Federal Constituency of Katsina State, as well as some local government areas of Edo State. The House wants decisive interventions from security agencies to safeguard lives and livelihoods of Nigerians wherever they reside in the country.
Incidents of kidnapping occurred weeks ago in Tsiga, Yanshuni, Kandarawa, and Lami villages, all in Bakori local government. Many people were abducted and are still in captivity, and the bandits demanding hundreds of millions from victims' families.
Also, a head of a vigilante group in Owan West was murdered in cold blood. Worried that this series of bloodbaths in Edo State has created the atmosphere of uncertainty, fear among the people of the states, affecting the socio-economic lives of the people.
Recent invasion of human population by wild elephants in Boki local government area of Cross River State was also raised as a matter requiring urgent intervention by the federal government.
As we speak, these wild animals continue to ravage communities in Bamba and surrounding communities in eastern Boki local government, worsening the plight of our people. If urgent measures are not taken by relevant authorities, frustrated locals may resort to self-help, endangering both human lives and already threatened elephant population.
Several legislations passed second reading, including a bill seeking establishment of Federal College of Agriculture, Kukawa, Borno State.
To provide full-time courses leading to the award of diploma, higher diploma in agriculture and allied fields, and be responsible for the due administration of the college and for related matters.
Two outstanding bills from the 9th Assembly to establish University of Aerospace and Aeronautics, Oka Akoko, as well as Federal University of Medicine and Health Science, Bida, Niger State, were referred to the Committee of the Whole for reconsideration. From the National Assembly, Mitairi Ikwen, NTA News.
Away from the National Assembly now, let's look at spiritual matters as Christians today converged on various denominations to celebrate Ash Wednesday. The day marks the beginning of the fourth day Lenten season, which leads to Easter. It is a time of spiritual preparation, reflection, and renewal of mind. Omenka Marachiko visited some churches in Abuja.
Which will be put on our heads in penitence.
Ash Wednesday marks the beginning of the journey towards Easter, which celebrates the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The 40-day Lenten season is a time of preparation, allowing Christians to focus on their faith and spiritual growth. The ashes used on the forehead are palm branches of the previous year, Palm Sunday, representing the ashes of repentance, reminding us of our mortality and the need for spiritual renewal.
Everyone should be ready to go ahead, be remorseful for what they have done in the past, and live better lives within these 40 days, and always.
Dust we are, and dust we shall all return back to, as signified by the ashes we have on our forehead.
Doing the rightful thing, not just taking the ash today and that will be the end. Rather, we should practice that we should supposed to do.
Christ resurrected. So during this Lenten season, we are supposed to fast, abstain, give alms to prepare us.
Reverend Smart Simeon of the NTA Chapel of Resurrection encourages Christians to prioritize their spiritual life and seek eternal life with God.
Our position in the society, there is need for us to be humble before God and ask Him to guide us day by day.
In Abuja, Omenka Marachiko, NTA News.
Meanwhile, Nigeria's First Lady, Oluremi Tinubu, has urged Christians to draw closer to Christ, show kindness, and deepen their commitment to serve others. This is contained in a message marking the commencement of the Lenten season, describing the Lenten period as a time of repentance, supplication, prayers, and good deeds. The First Lady urges them to walk together in the light of Christ with a heart filled with hope and compassion for all. While praying for a spiritually rewarding Lenten season, she admonishes Christian faithful to also pray for peace and prosperity in Nigeria, for us to build together a nation that would take her place among the Committee of Nations. Similarly, the Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, has called on Christians to use the Lenten season to offer special prayers for national unity and rebirth. In a statement to mark the commencement of the Lenten season, Kalu urged Christians to use the period to reflect on their relationship with God and with one another. The Deputy Speaker encouraged Christians to seek divine guidance and intervention in addressing national challenges. He also urged Nigerians to forgive one another and seek reconciliation at all times. And now joining us in the studio to give more insight on the significance of Ash Wednesday is the Catholic Archbishop Emeritus of Abuja, John Cardinal Onayekan. Your Eminence, it's a pleasure to have you on News Extra.
Thank you very much. May God bless you and bless all our viewers.
Amen. Now let's begin. The Lenten season has, of course, begun. What is expected of the faithful during the period?
Good. As has already been expressed by many people in the reports that has come from your correspondents from all over the country, the message is very clear that first Ash Wednesday marks the beginning of the period of Lent. We normally say 40 days, but it's not exactly 40 days. From now until Easter is about 46 days, but we say 40 days, also because 40 days is very symbolic. We can go into several cases where we hear about 40 days, but more especially, more significant is the 40 days that Jesus went fasting in the desert, and as well as the 40 days that he spent with his disciples after his resurrection. So 40 days is symbolic. And it's supposed to be a period of preparation for Easter, which is the greatest of our Christian celebrations. The question of ashes dates way back to the Old Testament, as we see from our Old Testament passages where people putting on sackcloth and lying on ashes was a way of expressing their humility, expressing repentance from their sins. We are told, for example, David, when he recognized how sinful he was, that was what he did. And the people of Nineveh were supposed to all went into ashes and sackcloth. Now, we don't cover ourselves with ashes anymore, but this symbolic gesture of a cross put with ashes on our forehead is very, very eloquent. And like many of the people who spoke now have said, it is the people really take it very, very seriously.
Talking about taking it seriously, Your Eminence, because of time, we have to, run a bit. How do we leverage the spiritual benefits of this exercise for nation building?
The important to leverage this exercise on two levels. There's a personal level, because Lent is a time when we all have to do something about our own personal relationship with God. And in our church, and according to our Catholic tradition, we have three special practices that characterizes our celebration of the period of Lent, namely deep prayers. Secondly, almsgiving. And thirdly, fasting, which is only one particular aspect of sacrifice and self-denial. All this is so as to prepare ourselves personally. But there's the other aspect of Lent, which we must not forget. There is the communal aspect, because our sins are not only personal, we also have communal sin. And we have seen this in the Old Testament, when the whole nation begins, where the whole nation is called upon to repent and present themselves before God and seek for pardon and forgiveness. And this is where I believe the season we are living through now is very pertinent for us in Nigeria, because there is a kind of providential coincidence which we should not allow to escape us. Because as we are starting Lent today as Christians, we are not forgetting that just 2 days ago,
Ramadan started.
Our Muslim brothers and sisters started the Ramadan. Whatever may be the differences between Christians and Muslims, whatever may be the difference in the details of our celebration of these two events, there's some common elements which we need to really take seriously, namely recognizing with humility our sinfulness and unworthiness before God, and this cuts across both religions, and also our readiness to change our attitude and repent and be converted. And added on to that, this both for Christians and Muslims, it is a time for greater reaching out to the poor in charity. Now, I think it is important for us in Nigeria that at least we have this opportunity where all of us, Christians and Muslims, we can join hands to do something that is really important for our nation. I'm one of those who is convinced that this nation needs a spiritual turnaround.
Of course, I think that's a fine point to leave the conversation. Many thanks, Archbishop Emeritus of Abuja. And of course, we're wishing the Pope a quick recovery.
Oh, yes. Well, we wish the Pope God's blessing. We pray for him that he may be going through the present situation he's going through according to God's will, and that he will continue to retain his peace of mind, tranquility of mind, because we are told he spent most of his time now between prayer and resting. Thank you so much, John Cardinal Onayekan. Wish you the very best this Lenten season, and of course, the Christian faith. And I wish all of us, Christians and Muslims, have a wonderful month ahead of us. Thank you. At the end of it, we hope we shall be a better nation. Of course. Thank you so much once again, Your Eminence. All right, so that's John Cardinal Onayekan there. We're still talking about religious matters now. In the spirit of Ramadan fast, Governor May Malabuni of Yobe State has flagged the distribution of food baskets worth 2 billion naira to 30,000 vulnerable households across the state to cater their daily nutritional needs throughout the period. Yunusa Suleiman reports that this year the state also expanded iftar feeding centers from 85 to 102, with the additional centers situated mostly in the healthcare facilities.
Disbursement of the cash from the centers came few days after the state government flagged off distribution of food and cash to 155 Ramadan feeding centers within the state capital, Sokoto. At this flag off, each of the feeding centers across 244 political wards in the 23 local government areas of Sokoto State, and additional 27 centers dedicated to persons with disabilities, received 5 million naira as their share of the initiative. Governor Ahmed Ali reiterates that in realization of difficulties, the underprivileged and people with disabilities encountered during breaking of the fast made the state government to expand the feeding program by increasing the number of feeding centers across the state.
This administration would continue to introduce social welfare programs aimed at assisting the general public.
It is, of course, part of your promise which you made to people. It is being fulfilled.
The Sultan of Sokoto described the gesture as a huge relief to the beneficiaries. Shortly after the ceremony, Governor Ahmed Ali embarks on the supervision of Ramadan feeding centers within the state capital city. From Sokoto, Bashir Ibrahim Nababa, NTA.
It's now time for a first break. Please stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Proceedings in the trial of former Anambra State Governor, Senator Andy Uba, for alleged fraud of 400 million naira failed to progress before the Federal High Court, Abuja, due to inability of the prosecuting team of the police to serve through substituted means all documents related to the case on the defendants to enable them prepare for defense. Andy Uba, his daughter Crystal, and one Benjamin Etu are standing trial on allegations of obtaining the 400 million naira from former House of Representatives member Doris Ubo, with an alleged false promise to facilitate appointment as MD of the NDDC. At Wednesday's proceedings, the court frowned at the delay in serving the amended charges on the defendants, particularly now that only Andy Uba and the third defendant are listed on the new charge sheet.
An amended charge from the prosecution. The prosecution filed an amended charge yesterday, and we are yet to be served. And they informed the court that we are ready for arraignment, just that we are surprised.
The matter has been adjourned to March 17, 2025 for reports of service and for possible arraignment of the defendants in the case. And away from the courtroom now, the Nigerian government and its armed forces have been commended for their steadfast commitment to combating terrorism, acknowledging the recent successes of disrupting terrorist networks and the adoption of innovative, intelligence-driven tactics that have proven effective in neutralizing insurgent threats. The acting principal deputy coordinator for counterterrorism at the Bureau of Counterterrorism, U.S. Department of State, Jessica Long, while engaging with senior NAF officials, reiterated the United States' continued support for the NAF's counterterrorism initiatives and emphasized the critical role of international collaboration in addressing evolving security threats. The Chief of Civil Military Relations, Air Vice Marshal Daramola, expressed appreciation for the U.S. delegation's visit and reaffirmed the NAF's unwavering resolve to ensure national security and protect civilians during military operations. And still on security matters, to further promote the protection of national assets for desired public benefits, the Commander, Joint Task Force Operation Delta Safe, Rear Admiral Madugu, is soliciting the support of journalists in the region for timely dissemination of information to aid operations of the command. The commander demanded this while playing host to the State Council of the Nigerian Union of Journalists, Bayelsa State Council, at the command's headquarters in Yenagoa. Gift Ogbe filed in the report.
Established by the Nigerian government to protect the oil and gas infrastructure, prevent oil theft and curb other criminal activities in the Niger Delta region, the Joint Task Force Operation Delta Safe is committed in ensuring safe of national assets in the Niger Delta region, which is why the collaboration between the media and the commandant says, is pivotal in the command's operation.
We cannot fight criminal theft, without you, because we need sensitization.
We committed ourselves to working to ensure that we create a space that is healthy, a space that gives information to the citizens to be better informed, for them to have the right kind of conduct, so that we can minimize crime and criminality within the Bayelsa jurisdiction.
By engaging with the Joint Task Force, the NUJ can help to promote accurate reporting and foster a better understanding of security issues in the region. This collaboration is expected to lead to more informed and balanced reporting in the ultimate interest of the society. In Yenagoa, Gifts Ogbe, NTA News.
Away from Yenagoa now, but still on security matters, the Federal Capital Territory Police Command says its ongoing tactical and clearance operations across the territory have successfully neutralized 7 suspected kidnappers, 9 armed robbers with over 300 suspects arrested, as well as recovered arms, ammunition and substances between the 1st of January and February 28, 2025. Security correspondent Onotu Yakubu has all the details.
Commissioner of Police Tunji Disu led his tactical commanders to display the exhibits.
Now recovered from ex-immigration officer, dismissed immigration officer, while trying to sell it to bandits terrorizing Abuja, Kaduna Forest.
So is it automatic? Because I can see
it is automatic. You can put it on silencer. You can silence it. It is very, very sophisticated arm.
And you can imagine this in wrong hands. These are ammunition that could kill human beings. And these are rifles that can fire rapid. These are rifles that you can put in silence, operate without anybody knowing.
CP Disu disclosed that the command's anti-kidnapping unit, in a decisive move, has undertaken ongoing clearance operations in known bandit routes such as Gidandogo, Kuyeri, Gauraka, and Sadrona forests across contiguous states of the territory within the period under review.
The Federal Capital Territory Police Command remained resolute in its mission to dismantle criminal network and enhance public safety.
Overall, 18 AK-47 rifles, 9 English pistols, hundreds of rounds of live ammunition, locally made arms, assorted hard drugs and intoxicants, as well as cash sums suspected to be proceeds of crime, were recovered through the operations. In Abuja, Onotu Yakubu, NTA News.
Away from security matters now, worried about leadership tussles in some West African countries. ECOWAS Parliament has established an ad hoc committee with a mandate to work towards resolving pending legislative and other wranglings in affected countries. Joel Popola reports that this formed part of resolutions at the plenary of the ongoing extraordinary session of ECOWAS Parliament.
The pursuit of peace and regional integration is the bedrock of the establishment of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. Among issues on the order paper are the briefing on the mediation mission to Liberia, where members deliberated extensively and agreed on how to address the crisis rocking the Liberian legislative arm of government. Members agreed that a delegation, with the speaker inclusive, engage relevant authorities to make the ECOWAS position known. One of the takeaways from the first 2025 ECOWAS Parliamentary Seminar and Extraordinary Session is the establishment of an ad hoc committee to look into the socio-political situation in the West African sub-region. These parliamentarians believe is instrumental to the economic advancement of West Africa. Members of the parliament are optimistic that the steps will yield the desired results.
The ad hoc is just set up, and I'm confident in the membership, so we should give them a chance. I'm sure we'll meet some other time to look at how far they have gone.
Right now, there's also a problem in Guinea-Bissau, whereby the present mandate is finished, but it has also extended the mandate. As parliamentarians, we could do our bit. That's why we established an ad hoc committee on political and social issues.
For the Speaker, Memunatu Ibrahima, and other members, it has become imperative to strengthen democratic principles as well as health and education within the sub-region.
We have to renew our commitment to the rule of law and improve the well-being of our people.
Talking about health and education is interrelated. So to talk about issues relating to the health sector, I think that one is laudable.
Consideration and adoption of the draft 2025 annual work plan, including the choice of Cape Verde for the September extraordinary session, was reached at plenary. In Lagos, Joel Bukbola, NTA News.
Now looking at other issues, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, is partnering the French government to enhance assets tracking, cybercrime investigation and security training. Lieutenant General Regis Colombet, Director of Security and Defense Cooperation at the French Ministry for Europe and Foreign Affairs, disclosed the partnership during a visit to the Commission's headquarters in Abuja. Colombet highlights France's extensive collaboration across various security domains, particularly in the establishment of specialized academic and training centers. The visit is a follow-up to a strategic meeting held in December 2024 aimed at reinforcing partnerships and identifying ways to implement more effective cooperation between Nigeria and France. The chairman of the commission, Ola Olukoyede, acknowledged the necessity of the working together to prevent and investigate cybercrimes, money laundering and other transnational financial offenses. In another development, a similar partnership with the Chinese government and the Commission is underway as Chinese ambassador to Nigeria, Yu Denhai, stated this when he led a delegation to the Commission. The collaboration will focus on investigation, evidence gathering, prosecution of offenders, and recovery of the proceeds of crime. Now, talking about crime, Chairman of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, Brigadier General Mohammed Buba Marwa, says anyone who engages in the illicit drug business will not be allowed to enjoy the proceeds from their crime. To this end, several assets illicitly acquired by drug traffickers and forfeited to the federal government have been put up for auction to the public.
The essence of it is to show, one, transparency involved in the auctioning of assets forfeited from traffickers.
The federal government is very committed in its stance to fight corruption. And that is why these assets were forfeited to the federal government are being auctioned today.
We want to assure you we are transparent here. No games in NTA. Everything is done merit.
There's no complaint because they followed the due process in every lot.
Meanwhile, the French government has assured the NDLEA of more support in the area of logistics and training to boost their operational capabilities in curbing the scourge of substance abuse and illicit drug trafficking. This was during a meeting between a French delegation and the management of the NDLEA in Abuja. Let's focus on the fourth estate of the realm, as investigative journalism remains crucial in holding leaders accountable and also in promoting social change. This was brought to the light at the first international conference on trends in investigative journalism in northern Nigeria, organized by the Mass Communication Department of the Northeastern University, Gombe. Bagum Samari reports that the President, Society of Nigerian Broadcasters, Professor Umar Pate, and the renowned Ghanaian investigative journalist Anas Armayo are amongst the resource persons.
Conference brought together experts from across the globe to share insight and strategies for effective practice as investigative journalists. Speakers believe for investigative journalism to promote social change and hold those in power accountable, it must expose corruption, abuse of power, and human rights violations.
The message is we encourage our journalists for them to be relevant in our democratic setup. They must promote investigative journalism. They need to invest their capacities, their time, and their resources.
There is the need to be innovative in journalism. Because to push the frontiers of our democracy, we need to be very innovative. Today, we are in the age of AIs. How can you apply yourself theoretically and practically to ensure that you push and to ensure that you are able to tell a story?
That we started with a very strong note, bringing Mr. Armayo Anas and Professor Pate to participate or to be the main speakers of the conference. These are veteran journalists, people of very high caliber.
The conference also featured panel of discussion on personal experience by experts as they dwell on various aspects of investigative journalism. Participants also witnessed the commissioning of multimedia and content creation studio of the Northeastern University, named after a renowned Ghanaian investigative journalist, Anas Armayo. Bagum Samari, NTA News.
Residents of Abuja have continued to experience load shedding of electricity and frequent outages due to what industry players attribute to acts of vandalism and energy theft. Now, there's a ray of hope as security operatives clamp down on vandals to ensure electricity consumers have uninterrupted access to supply. Joshua Ojito reports.
Events of recent months have been challenging for the power sector as vandalism of electrical infrastructure continue unabated. The nation's capital, Abuja, is not spared as acts of vandalism impact negatively on both transmission and distribution of electricity, with the recent destruction and stalling of underground cables around Millennium Park responsible for load shedding and outages in parts of Abuja.
A lot of our equipment, especially transmission towers, they are vandalized. TCN is collaborating with all these security agencies to make sure that our lines are well protected. We are also talking to the people that live in the locality, showing them that this property belongs to the nation.
Worried by these acts considered as economic sabotage, FCT Joint Security Task Force steps in. Suspects arrested, items recovered, and hand over to Abuja Electricity Distribution Company.
It's one of the bane of the power industry, I can tell you. Energy theft means that we are unable to get the revenue we require to serve customers properly. Energy theft means that we see continuous damage to our system, to our network, meters. These are things that are expensive and you need to replace. Energy theft affects everyone.
With dedicated whistleblowing channels, the FCT Joint Security Task Force and the AEDC are on the same page to end vandalism, as residents are encouraged to report suspicious movement of persons around power infrastructure. Joshua Ojito, NTA News.
Meanwhile, the Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelapo, has expressed delight over the historic achievement of 6,003 megawatts of power generation in the country. On Sunday, March 2, 2025, Nigeria achieved a record available power generation of 6,003 megawatts, the highest in the nation's history. Minister of Power says the recent milestones are as a result of concerted efforts by the federal government in collaboration with key stakeholders in the sector to address long-standing challenges and optimize the nation's power infrastructure, including tariff review, which has ensured liquidity in the sector. And away from power, President Bola Tinubu has paid glowing tribute to former President Olusegun Obasanjo on his 88th birthday, praising his enormous contributions to Nigeria's development and his enduring legacy as a statesman. In a statement, President Tinubu highlighted Obasanjo's remarkable military career, including his role in ending of Nigeria's 30-month civil war. He also commended Obasanjo's leadership as a military head of state and later as a civilian president, noting his commitment to national unity, peace and progress. The president acknowledged Obasanjo's continued influence and reputation as a global peace ambassador and troubleshooter, citing his tireless efforts in conflict resolution, advocacy for good governance, and dedication to Pan-Africanism. He prayed for Obasanjo's continued health and strength. Now, President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of 2 new permanent secretaries in the Federal Civil Service to fill existing vacancies. The newly appointed officials are Adeladon Rafiu Olarinre and Mukhtar Yawale Mohammed, representing Oyo State and the Northwest Geopolitical Zone, respectively. The appointments followed a rigorous and transparent selection process in line with the administration's commitment to meritocracy, excellence and competence in the civil service. The new permanent secretaries were urged to bring in wealth of experience and expertise to the roles, which will further strengthen the delivery of public service and support the government's development agenda. In the same vein, President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment of Temitola Adekunle Johnson as Special Advisor to the President on Job Creation and MSME Office of the Vice President, and Mrs. Uju Anwuka as Senior Special Assistant to the President on Public Health, Office of the Vice President. Prior to their appointments, Mr. Adekunle Johnson and Mrs. Anwuka served in the same portfolios as Senior Special Assistant and Special Assistant to the President, respectively, all in the Office of the Vice President. As Senior Special Assistant, Mr. Adekunle Johnson has diligently driven some of the administration's policies and programs in areas of job creation and development in the micro, small and medium enterprises space in Nigeria. Meanwhile, Mrs. Anwuka has industriously anchored the administration's vision in combating malnutrition and hunger, especially in vulnerable communities across the country, while serving as special assistant. A key program under her watch is the recently launched Nutrition 774 initiative. Another break beckons. This is News Extra. Please stay with us. Thank you for remaining with us. Once again, the Nigerian Correctional Service is under scrutiny as an independent panel digs deeper into allegations of corruption and systemic failures. At the formal opening of the panel's second public hearing in Abuja, the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, assures that reforms aren't just on the table, they are on the way. Victor Azu reports.
Packed room of legal minds, human rights advocates, and key players in Nigeria's criminal justice system. This is the setting as the investigative panel begins another round of hearings into alleged wrongdoings in the Nigerian Correctional Service. At the center of it all is the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo, who isn't just here to listen. He's making a promise that this panel's recommendations won't be another forgotten report, but a blueprint for real reform.
A scenario where we have 65% awaiting trial, It means that the key to our decongestion is to treat the issue of awaiting trials. I need solutions. And not just solutions. I need timelines for implementation. I need a work plan.
But beyond policies and reforms, this is a human issue. The Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Interior, who also chairs the panel, alongside other key players, agree that the system is riddled with injustices. Many inmates are guilty of nothing more than being poor, unable to afford bail, legal fees, or even a fair shot at justice.
The correctional service is to keep away persons who are serving sentence of court for crimes they may have committed. Though in our case, sometimes persons who are found in our prisons have neither been found guilty of an offense or even standing any charge.
He has opened us up to members of the public to bring in their own observations, their comments, and their own recommendations that will make the Nigerian Correctional Service one of the best in the world.
The findings and recommendations from this inquiry will serve as a foundation for meaningful reform that would be sustainable and ensuring that our correctional institutions function with integrity, professionalism, and respect for human dignity.
The question now isn't whether the system needs fixing. That much is clear. The real test is whether this panel's findings will drive lasting reforms or end up as just another shelved report, forgotten like so many before it. In Abuja, Victor Azu, NTA News.
Away from the correctional centers, it is often said that nothing is inherently useless. It's up to us to find the potential. Well, this is unfolding in Plateau State as farmers are turning abandoned mining sites to water reservoirs for irrigation purposes. Musa Babaliu visited several of these locations in Jos, Mangu and Bokos local government areas of the state and came back with this report.
Decades after large-scale mining ceased in certain parts of Plateau State, several abandoned pits are still in common sight. This situation has attracted environmental concerns and other issues associated with these deserted sites. Reports indicate that there are also many of these sites in Mangu, Barkilladi, and Bokos local government areas. However, the good news is that some of these pits have been converted into reservoirs, storing thousands of cubic meters of water which last throughout the year. Farmers are taking advantage of these water bodies to cultivate various crops. The Permanent Secretary, Plateau State Minister of Agriculture, took me on a guided tour of some of these plantations in the state.
These ponds have been consistently used and being increased in hectareage. You all agree that if we depend on only rainy season, we might have it rough. So, and I, as a practical farmer, when I tried the dry season, I saw it paid better, and I was able to control most of the conditions that would have affected it in the rainy season.
As a result of this innovation, wheat farmers in the area have embraced the federal government's wheat farming initiative. A visit to several wheat farms in Mangu and Barkilladi reveals the potential for good yield this season. This initiative is in addition to ongoing wet season trial for wet cultivation in Kuru and Vom.
We have over 3,000 farmers already in the listing for participating in the rainy season program. One of the major challenges is the economic burden on the farmers. And where you can reduce that burden to the barest minimum, you will have more farmers participating in agriculture.
Currently, concerns are being raised about orders in parts of the state that are not being utilized. From Barkilladi, Plateau State, Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Elsewhere, Nigeria has been granted the status of a key stakeholder in the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, which has a capital base of more than 10 billion euros. This comes as the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security hosts a delegation from the bank in Abuja. Details with Musa Babaliu.
European Bank for Reconstruction and Development visiting the Minister of Agriculture to discuss potential ways Nigeria can benefit from its investment in the bank. Last week, Nigeria received approval from the bank to join the group of 77 shareholders. The leader of the delegation informed the minister about the specific areas the bank will focus on regarding Nigeria's agriculture and rural infrastructure.
Once Nigeria becomes a country where we can operate and invest in as the next step, we can, really leverage our whole balance sheet in the private sector and the public sector to support projects from small-scale farmers here in the agriculture ministry through banks, but also large aggregators and companies in Nigeria, to also some selected infrastructure investments with the government and the state.
Abubakar Kyari on the various programs and policies being implemented by the current administration to enhance food security and promote rural development, mentioned that President Tinubu has approved a recapitalization of the Bank of Agriculture.
Happy to announce, and which was passed by the National Assembly and also assented to by Mr. President, is the provision of 1.5 trillion naira to the Bank of Agriculture, which is equivalent to about $1 billion in 2025. That will be the game changer, I believe, in terms of financing.
He stated that the ministry intends to leverage its status as a stakeholder in the European Bank to pursue additional partnership with the European Union. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
Let's talk more business. Benny Adams is our guide. Benny.
Thank you, Harry. Now, Japan, one of Nigeria's largest sesame seed export markets, is set to impose stricter import regulations starting in March 2025. The new rules will reduce allowable pesticide residue levels, potentially impacting Nigeria's significant share of the global sesame market. Alika Opanachi Arwa reports on the steps the Nigerian government is taking to ensure quality and compliance.
Nigeria's sesame export market was valued at approximately $427.9 million, with major buyers including China, Japan, India, and the European Union. Despite being the world's fourth largest sesame producer, Nigeria faces a potential disruption.
This is not just for exports. What Nigerians consume also deserve the highest of global standards. So just to make that point, that it's not just for what we give to other people, but also what we consume. So we're working on a whole systemic approach.
There's misuse of pesticides, and there's also salmonella contamination in some of our cowpeas. So this study and the implementation of this report will help us curb that and help all the farmers and the major players in the value chain to comply with the pesticide residue level.
We are forming an intergovernmental working group in Nigeria among the regulators to organize the coordination of these pesticides and exercising their mandate in a more coordinated way.
They are also calling for the urgent implementation of a national traceability system, NTS, which will help monitor and improve product quality to ensure compliance with international standards. In Abuja, Alika Opanachi, Arua, NTA News.
Now, still talking economic growth, the African Development Bank Group says Africa's Growth Agenda 2063 will be a reality. This is as the bank believes Africa's GDP growth rate has demonstrated remarkable resilience despite global and domestic shocks that have overlapping and recurrent.
Africa has what it takes to finance its own development domestically and achieve this high rate of growth of 7 to 10%, which is determined to be what will break these vicious cycles of poverty in Africa if we sustain it over the next 40 years. It is possible. Africa can, and Africa should do it. So it doesn't depend. It depends on us to be able to make it happen.
Now, I'll be optimistic of that GDP growth. Let's take a look at the market in Africa, talking about a Nigerian stock where Nigerian equities today posted the third consecutive losses as the all-share index lost 0.41% to close at 160,461.96 basis points from 106 points of yesterday recorded, that is Tuesday. While existing investors are also busy taking profit, it is that best time for new investors sectors like tantalizers who led the gainers list, while Caverton topped the losers chart. Well, Fidelity Bank was actually the most traded stock by volume, while Okumu Oil was the most traded stock by value, worth 2.53 billion naira. And in South Africa, the South Africa GSE top 40 actually gained 1.20% to record 952.97 gain to close at 80,406.50 basis points. It's also a gain for the Tunisia Tune Index, which appreciated by 0.12% to close at 10,725.13%. African stocks actually doing well. It is hopeful that possibly tomorrow Nigerian stocks might just turn positive. That is it on business. But News Extra continues after this break. Do stay with us.
Glad to have you back. To ensure proper waste management of end-of-life vehicle, a regulation for ALV recycling process geared towards achieving a cleaner and eco-friendly environment as well as industrial value chain has been presented to stakeholders in the automotive sector. Larry Goulet, who was at the conference and ministerial press briefing, has all the details.
Management of end-of-life vehicle requires a holistic approach, which involves recycling regulations of vehicle parts that consist of metals, plastics, and rubber that can be recovered and recycled, reducing the demand for new raw materials, contributing to circular economy, minimizing environmental pollution. This is what informed federal government's National Automotive Design and Development Council, NADDC, to have a stakeholders engagement on end-of-life vehicle regulation. Minister of State for Industry, Senator John Eno, states that implementation of this regulation is key.
I mean, what are those gains? I mean, there are safety issues here, there are health issues here, there are environmental issues here, there are issues about the circularity of, the world economy and all of that. So I think that, the gains of these, would make you begin to wonder, I mean, why is it taking us this long, to be able to achieve this?
The DG of NADDC, other speakers at the conference made presentation of various aspects of end-of-life vehicle recycling systems in environmental and economical phases, the vision and the goals of ELV regulation.
You will agree with me that most of the vehicles on Nigerian roads today are mostly pre-owned vehicles. That is vehicle already being used somewhere else. It means by the time they are coming in, the likelihood of getting to the end of life very early is always high.
There are certain stakeholders that we'll still need to talk with. More than 8 million Nigerian vehicles that are registered are commercial. The operators of those commercial vehicles need to be on board.
So there's a lot of private sector approach to it to make sure that it works.
End-of-life vehicle management with a sustainable framework has a huge potential for improvement of the nation's economy and safeguarding of the environment. In Lagos, Larry Goulet, NTA News.
As a motorist, do you know necessary tools needed in a vehicle in case of emergencies? Are you aware that these items, when neglected, can keep you stranded and exposed to danger on the road? Well, Ngozi Okeke-Aro in this report sought to know the level of awareness by motorists on essential tools needed in vehicles, usage and attendant enlightenment from authorities to ensure road safety.
I don't know all of them, but I know some. I have wheelspan and jack, some socket, fuse, wire.
Anybody who has been driving car is supposed to have jack, wheelspanner, and the caution triangle.
You require, as a matter of urgency, a fire extinguisher, because that was the one that has also affected me on this particular vehicle.
Research shows that while some motorists don't call it a duty to have these items, others lack the knowledge of what they are and rely solely on automobile mechanics to fix their vehicles at every slightest breakdown. What should a vehicle kit comprise of?
Vehicle papers you should use for you to be on the road. Of course, your driver's license first and foremost. Insurance, your roadworthiness papers, your proof of
ownership, your hack permit, your spare tires. It is better to have a torchlight when you're traveling, when you're in your car then. And then of course you should have your fire extinguisher in your vehicle, and of course your first aid box. You should have your caution sign. If anything happens, you don't want to be there repairing your vehicle and then the next thing, another vehicle comes knocking you down.
Police is expected to check every necessary document that a driver must have with him while using the road.
Meanwhile, motorists stranded on roads nationwide can always call 112 toll-free line for quick intervention from the Federal Road Safety. Little things one may say, yet they matter and can make or mar your journey. Just ensure you have these essential items in your vehicle to save you from unforeseen situations on the road. Inoka Ngozi Okekaru, NTA News.
Many thanks, Ngozi, for the heads up. Now, the Seyi Tinubu 2025 Renewed Hope Unity Cup has kicked off in Port Harcourt with 16 teams competing for the coveted trophy. Daniel Kumasi reports that the competition organized by Friends of Seyi Tinubu was held at the Sharks Football Club Stadium, Port Harcourt.
The 2025 edition of Seyi Tinubu Unity Football Competition is a veritable tool to harness raw talent and celebrate values of unity, sportsmanship, and spirit of excellence among youths in Rivers State. The opening ceremony was an entertaining encounter between Paris FC and Echelenche FC as they showcased their skills and talent. At the end of the thrilling encounter, Paris FC won the opening match by 2-1, scoring in both halves. Host of the tournament, Mohamed Awa and Joseph Ajibode, emphasized the role of football as a unifying agent and platform for discovering of young talents.
Each and every player will showcase his talents, will showcase his skills. At the end of the day, we will be united. Whatever we have as a passion, as a dream, will be achieved.
This tournament is more than just a competition. It's a celebration of our shared values, resilience, and the indomitable spirit of the Nigerian youth.
Organizers of the competition, Kelly Bini, charged participants to play with passion and enjoy the game in the spirit of sportsmanship.
Most of the players here, they are from different parts of the country, different cities, you understand. So we want them to have that sense of belonging that we are one.
The competition featured special performance by Port Harcourt artists.
Really appreciate in the likes of the host, Seyi Tinubu, for this kind of opportunity.
To accept the loss. A game is either you win or you lose. So
the event will run from the 5th to 23rd of March 2025, while the winner will clinch a grand prize of 2.5 million naira. In Port Harcourt, Kumasi Daniel, NTA News.
Still in sports, for over a decade, Borno State has been a focal point of insurgency, significantly affecting various aspects of life, including sporting activities, leading to a decline in competitive sports events, abandonment of facilities, and displacement of athletes. However, with return of peace in the state, there's been a renewed effort to revive sports, especially with the hosting of the Nigerian Premier Football League NPFL matches in Maiduguri by Okanami Warriors Football Club. Pauline Kujivana explores efforts to restore sports glory in Borno State.
The prolonged insurgency in Borno severely impacted sports development in multiple ways, especially football, which has long been a source of unity and entertainment, was nearly halted as teams and fans were unable to gather safely for matches. Many sports facilities, including the El Kanemi Sports Center, deteriorated due to lack of maintenance and disuse. Despite past challenges, the recent hosting of Nigerian Premier Football League (NPFL) matches in Maiduguri signifies a turning point for sports recovery in Borno, as El Kanemi Warriors resumed playing home matches in the state capital, attracting teams and fans from across Nigeria. However, as part of the NPFL standards, league officials have mandated that stadium hosting league matches meet specific infrastructure and security requirements, putting it straight that El Kanemi Warriors Football Club's failure to upgrade facilities could result to forfeiting their home matches or relocating to a neighboring state for their games.
We have the largest fans in the northern Nigeria after Kano Pillars.
This directive prompted Borno State government to take swift action in renovating the El Kanemi Sports Complex to meet national league standards.
With the intervention of our state governor, with his quick intervention, so the work is possible now.
I urge the teaming parts of El Kanemi Warriors to continue to support the administration of His Excellency, the Executive Governor.
The renovation will significantly improve our playing condition.
The Honorable Commissioner took the bull by its horn to renovate the Maiduguri Sports, El Kanemi Warriors Sports Center, Maiduguri.
But now on its path to recovery, it is essential to recognize the critical role sports as a whole plays in promoting social cohesion, economic growth, and community development, as demonstrated by Borno State government to upgrade its sporting facilities. In Maiduguri, Paul Nkujevana, NTA News.
Many thanks, Pauline. Don't get it twisted. I'm not your sports guide for the day. Our sportsman is here. Buddy, feed us.
Many thanks, Yeri. Not to worry. Let's continue with football. As former Super Eagles striker Obafemi Martins says Nigeria has all it takes to qualify for the 2026 FIFA World Cup with the strength of the current team. In an exclusive with NTA Sports in Abuja, the former Inter Milan and Newcastle forward suggested that the players must put in extra shift and play with more passion to achieve the goal. Currently sitting fifth in Group C, Nigeria will face group leaders Rwanda in Kigali on Friday, March the 21st, before hosting Zimbabwe in Uyo 4 days later.
They got to do, because when it comes to national team is not for babies. So, and I believe the players, for sure, they're going to qualify because, for me, they're doing a great job. So hopefully, we're going to see everyone.
Meanwhile, reactions from ex-internationals and coaches have continued to throw the 39-man squad released by Super Eagles coach Eric Charlie. This one from former Nigerian international Samuel Elijah says Ahmed Musa has been a great motivator to the team and is a very highly experienced and disciplined player. For the new gaffer to call him, he must have seen something in him. Former Super Eagles defender Ifeanyi Udeze also said there are better ways to go about it, but 39 is too much. This is not the time to know everybody. Super Eagles coach and ex-international Samson Siasia, in his quote, he said, Chelle has been given the job. He should be allowed to make choices or decisions that he feels will make him to succeed. All right, let's quickly update you when it comes to the UEFA Champions League. One match settled already tonight. Inter Milan won away to Feyenoord. 2-0 it ended. The match between PSG and Liverpool. Goalless at the moment, PSG are dominating. Bayern Munich 2-0 up against Bayer Leverkusen. Bayer Leverkusen with a red card. Same with Barcelona, who are currently playing goalless with Benfica. That's your sports. Let's return to your area.
Many thanks, Buddy. Now, for every beginning, there is an end. This reality has come to pass for 125-year-old regional head of Hausa communities in southern Nigeria. He was also the Sarakin Sasa in Ibadan, Alhaji Haruna Mai Yasin. Kendi Omolusho reflects on the life and times of this exemplary leader, described by many as a unifier and revered for his wisdom, compassion and dedication to the growth, development and well-being of mankind.
Came to commiserate with the family of the deceased.
Until his demise, Sekin Shasha was the chairman of the Council of Arewa Traditional Rulers in the 17 southern states of Nigeria.
The Sekin Shasha Aruna Mayasin played significant role in fostering harmonious and peaceful relationship between the Arewa community and other ethnic nationalities in Ibadan land.
He is the only person that has no tribe or religion or has single person that he rely on. He rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
And that wraps up News Extra tonight, the very first in the month of March 2025. Many thanks for being a part of it. Do have a good night.